Welcome to the Daily Exchange. I'm here with Dave from Power Ledger. We're talking about Bitcoin right now. It's darting all over the place. We're going to be really getting into it, guys, particularly as well if these miners are switching off more rigs. We'll see you guys right after this. All right, guys, welcome back. I'm here with Dave Martin. He's the co-founder and managing director of Power Ledger. Welcome to the Daily Exchange, Dave.
Pleasure to be here. Thanks for having me.
Good to have you on the show. Just a bit of background for those that aren't aware. Power Ledger obviously is a peer-to-peer trading and renewable electricity network, which is probably Australia's, I'd say, most successful blockchain business that's out there right now, which is awesome. And you obviously have a very extensive background, 20 years in electricity.
Yeah, it makes me sound really old, but yep.
That's like me. I think I've been in the internet for 17 years.
What? Mate, you are very old.
Yeah, I guess in terms of talking about quickly about trading trends right now, we've got a lot of analysts right now trying to pick the bottom, I guess. They always say you get stinky fingers if you try and do that. Yeah, I guess we've got a graph here right now. Ripple seems to be, sorry, XRP. I can't say Ripple, XRP and Ripple. It's not possible. Joel, I was going to bring up this graph of XRP right now. We've got, for some reason, Ripple seems to be holding. I don't know how. For some reason, everyone, it's one of those market favorites that are out there, and it just hasn't really faltered. I don't know what it is. Alex Saunders from Nuggets News, a great friend of the show as well. I think you guys have been
a great friend of Power Ledger as well.
Great friend of Power Ledger as well, has been on the show, and he's come out with his perspective right now. So just read, the media will tell you how much Bitcoin and crypto traders have lost in 2018. They won't tell you the central bank selling has led to $1 trillion of losses that hurt retirement savings of millions. Facebook is down 253 billion, 280 billion for Amazon, 253 billion to Alphabet. Wow, that's a lot. Swiss National Bank top holdings. Jeez. There you have it. I don't think it's actually gone down those. Those probably are the differences in value that they have gone down to now, not necessarily. That must be still what those companies are still worth, because those companies are still carrying on, right?
Oh, they are. But
it's interesting to look at that.
It's a good point he makes.
Yeah, definitely. Bitcoin right now, there is potential fears that when it's not, I guess, claimed, or I guess it's claimed, but it's not exactly verified, that miners are throwing out their equipment in China because it's getting close to what's called the switch-off price. Now, the switch-off price, Joel, if you want to spin up this video, it's been found, it's sort of out there. It's from 10 seconds. Yeah, so is that cryptocurrency miners that are throwing out their mining equipment? It's unclear. I think that's video footage from it's from a flood from before. I just think it's been sort of pieced together, because the switch-off price, now, this is something which is quite controversial and it's not clear, but right now it is the dry season in China. So the prices have gone up in terms of electricity. And there is an analyst here, and she is Mr. Wan, I believe, is from the Primitive Ventures a VC fund, and they are forecasting that the switch-off price for the Antima S9, which is apparently the most popular Bitcoin miner, is $3,800 US. $3,800 US, and we are currently at $4,214. So we're getting close. I don't know if people are going to switch off their miners, but really, we've got a tweet here, Joel, if you want to bring it up. From Dovey Wan, another factor in electricity costs current season in China is dry season. So many hydro-based mining power facing peak cost of the year, which makes it even worse. Also, some top mining pool owners were saying that they're operating at a loss for the last 3 months, which is rare since 2014. Now, the thing is, but the difficulty will go down with less hash rate, with less mining, and hopefully, like it's done for many, many years, over the last 10 years, it'll recorrect and be back and carry on. That's my forecast. I think this is all just, it's all just going to play out. It's okay. Everything's fine. Again, talking about, I think one of the big things right now that everyone is, concerned about is this Bitcoin Cash hash war that carries on. Calvin Ayre has now come out and asked to sue for peace with the BCH SV chain. He is the owner of CoinGeek as well. Will this bring an end to it? I don't know. Who knows? Prices right now, BCH ABC is winning at $214, SV at $41. Interestingly enough, Stellar right now is potentially going to have a bigger market cap than BCH right now. Stellar currently at 3.77 billion and BCH at 3.81 billion, which is interesting if that takes over. Ripple actually has also moved into position 2 on the coin market cap rankings. All right, guys, let's talk right now. Power Ledger, everything Power Ledger. Dave, tell us just a bit of background, because I think just to give everyone a bit of background on the ledger itself. It's a blockchain-based platform for peer-to-peer trading. So people get excess electricity, they can trade it into this market space. Forgive me if I'm. I just want to give everyone a bit of background. Now there is, I guess, there is 2 tokens, I believe. There is the Power (POWR) token, and then there is the Sparks token. And obviously, Power can be converted into Sparks in order to transact. I believe.
Well, power is required. So power is a utility token. So you need power to get access to the trading environment. You need power to get access to a pool of Sparks, and it also provides something of a prudential guarantee for the consumers of the trading energy in the trading environment. That if the trading host vanishes with their money, then the power is sitting there to cover at least some of the cost of the energy that they've bought.
Understandable. Okay, and then obviously there's a massive amount of this new green power economy, this new trend towards people installing solar power. People to mastering, I guess, their own electricity needs in and of themselves. And I think today Labor came out and said potentially there'll be a $2,000. They're promising a $2,000 bonus in Australia for installing solar powered batteries.
Yeah, which is kind of scary when you think about it, because one of the reasons why the cost of electricity is growing in Australia is because network costs are getting more and more expensive. And when you stick a battery behind the meter in your garage or in your spare room, wherever it goes, that means you're buying less and less energy from the grid. That means there's more of the grid to pay for everybody else. So the price of the grid goes up. And one of the reasons why we started Power Ledger is to create an environment, an economy where consumers were more encouraged to sell their excess energy to their neighbours than to stick it in a battery and disappear, so that we didn't get to a point where only the people who couldn't afford a battery and a PV system, so the poor or socially marginalised or small business for PV and batteries just don't work for them now, they're the only ones left on the grid and they're paying for the total cost of the grid, so their price just hits higher and higher and higher. So our view is if we can create an economy where I'm encouraged to sell my energy to my neighbour rather than sticking it in a garage, then we'll all keep using the grid, we'll maintain the price of the grid, and those people who can't afford to kind of play in that economy themselves by installing those assets, they can participate by buying clean, green, low-cost, low-carbon energy from their neighbours.
Oh, that's really cool. And so how did you come up with the idea for Power Ledger?
I guess that was it. So I was working in an energy space. We were having a great old time connecting big batteries and microgrids and doing all sorts of funky things, but watching the whole time the price of storage just fall and realising that if we didn't do something to keep customers connected to the grid or provide an incentive to stay connected to the grid, then they would just get off. And that death spiral I talked about earlier, how the price of the grid gets more and more expensive, encourages more people to get off. So at the end, it's only the people who can't afford it that are stuck on the grid. In order to avoid that, we need to create a different environment. And I was working in that energy space. I met one of my co-founders, Gemma Green, who was finishing her PhD in disruptive technologies. And she was trying to create an environment where people in apartment buildings were encouraged to put PV on their roof. Because it's about 35% of the housing market, the strata market in Australia. But hardly any of them have PV. And you can imagine if you and I lived in the same...
Just maybe...
Solar. Photovoltaics, so solar panels, basically.
Solar panels,
so, yeah, it's an easy way of saying solar panels.
Yeah.
But if you and I lived in the same apartment building and you work all day but I work from home, we won't agree to put PV on the roof because you're never home to get the energy. I'm home, I get all the cheap energy. By the time you get home it's dark and so you're paying for energy from the grid. So we just don't agree to put the investment on the roof. But if we could find a way that we could share the value of that energy, and so even if you weren't around to consume the energy itself, your neighbour, me, was there to consume yours and pay you for it, we could create an environment where we could confidently invest in rooftop solar panels in a strata environment, and that 35% of the housing market could actually participate in the new energy economy. So Gemma and I met while she was working on that project. I was working on a project with the energy company, and we realised we were looking at two sides of the same coin. So she was trying to create a trading environment within an apartment building. I was trying to find a way of encouraging the adoption of the network as a trading platform for the buying and selling energy across the grid. And the only technology we could find that allowed us to deal with the complexity of those transactions was blockchain. And I guess the rest is history from there.
Awesome. Okay, and then do you want to give a sort of go one step further into how does Power Ledger, I guess, work, or a brief understanding of it, like I guess day to day, like do I buy a special piece of technology or, you know,
how does it work?
Yeah, how do I get in there?
No, so our aim was to use the existing assets that already sit there. So we basically read all the meters all the time. So we can tell what's being generated, what's being consumed, what's being spilled to the grid, what's being bought from the grid. And if we have access to smart meters, we really are a data play. We can manage through the use of that information, a set of really either very elegant and simple trading arrangements where we just share the available energy, or even down to some really complex one where we have algorithms that determine what price, who gets access to energy first. It can make a really complex buy and selling kind of trading environment. In fact, we launched one today in Fremantle with a part of the Smart Cities trial. I can talk about that later. But so for us, there's no additional hardware. It's a completely software play, but we do need access to smart meter data. So if we can read your meter, then we can bring you into a trading environment.
And do I need to go and install something there? You send me something and I put it on, or how does that happen?
Right. So if we can get access to the data through a data aggregator, a building management system, or like we're doing in Fremantle through IoT devices in the meter board, if we can access that data, then we need somebody to act as a trading host. So somebody who's going to be the central kind of clearinghouse of all of the traded energy, or to operate that. That person surrenders some power tokens to a smart contract. They get access to our platform. They get access to the sparks that are required to represent the value of traded energy. And then they integrate their consumers through a secure login process. And the consumer doesn't really have to do anything. They prepay their energy in most part. And then if their neighbours have got energy available that it's lower cost than buying energy from the grid, lower carbon, and they have a coincident demand, and that's the important thing. The energy works by having coincident supply and demand. So if you've got excess energy spilling to the grid at the same time that I've got a demand and I've prepaid the energy and we have a trading relationship, then it just happens. So the value of energy goes from, your kilowatt hour goes from your wallet, let's say your meter to my meter, and my sparks go from my wallet to yours. So we get that transaction of value.
And so, like, do I need to speak to Power Ledger to get this started in my building, or how does that work?
So we work with network companies at the moment, energy companies, but we're also working with strata companies. So the projects that we're running in Fremantle and White Gum Valley, we have a number of strata companies that are managing, like strata companies do, managing the energy supply, the water supply, all of those sort of co-owned supplies in an apartment building. So we work with a strata company. The strata company builds the program into the customer's strata strata agreement, and then we have a series of prices that we negotiate, or the customers negotiate. So they tell us we want to sell our renewables at just less than the available feed-in tariff, or we want to make it really cheap for each other, so we want to sell it at a serious discount. And we set those prices up and away they go.
And that's a piece of software that just runs.
Yep.
Cool. And then how's the sort of adoption of the actual, the technology with with Strata and things like that going?
It's been really good. We still need some regulatory change to do it across the main network, but lots of network companies are now waking up to the fact that as more and more people install their own solar panels, they're disappearing. They've got to do something different to keep some value in the system. So at a kind of a universal level, we're working in Australia with companies like Western Power and Synergy, in Thailand with BCPG and their Metropolitan Energy Authority, in the US with American Power Networks and Silicon Valley Power, and in Japan with their largest retailer, KEPCO, energy company KEPCO. So we're working really closely with some of the biggest players in the industry, but even down at a grassroots level, working with small strata companies that are managing energy supplies in a low-cost, low-carbon way for their customers. We're building kind of acknowledgement, or building knowledge of the business, building knowledge of the potential for the exchange and the value that sits there. But from somebody who's worked in the energy industry for a long time and seen how slow things move in the traditional energy space, it's been a surprisingly rapid uptake.
Cool. So how many people are actually trading right now with the system?
So in Thailand, there would be 9 buildings with a whole range of tenants trading energy there. In Fremantle, we launched midnight Perth time this morning, the Smart Cities project there, so there'll be up to 40 consumers trading across the Western Power network there. There's a series of apartment buildings that range in size from 3 tenants up to about 40 tenants that are all trading within those tenant spaces. In the US, American Power
Networks. And that's in Fremantle right now?
Right now.
That's cool.
Right now, yeah.
And they're getting they have those buildings have staked power tokens, and then they're getting sparks.
They get access to the pool of sparks. Their consumers buy the sparks, or get allocated the sparks if we're doing it in a post-payment environment, which is what we're doing at the moment. But they get allocated sparks so that as the kilowatt hour comes off the roof and lands at their meter, the sparks go from their wallet to the strata company's wallet. So it represents the transfer in value.
Right.
And it's latency free. It happens virtually instantaneously. So in a 30-minute energy market trading interval, I buy and sell and pay for my energy in that period, rather than consuming energy for 2 months and then getting a bill and having 10 days to pay for it and having all of that lag and all the risk of non-payment and all those sorts of things. I know that if I'm selling my energy to my neighbour, he can only buy it if he's got the ability to pay for it, and I get paid for it instantly.
Makes sense. And then, so with the actual, maybe we'll come back to some of the adoption pieces and some of the news, but I'm keen to understand with that token. So you guys have raised, I think it's one of the best ICOs in Australia, again, 34 million in, I think it was back in...
Closed in October last year. Yeah,
last year.
About 14 months ago, yeah.
Wow, it's a long time ago.
Yeah, time flies.
In cryptocurrency, right?
Yeah.
And so people got power tokens for that. And yeah, I guess, do you want to just explain like how the power token and the Sparks token, like how that sort of works? And can you, do you get power and convert them into Sparks, or do you sell Sparks, or which one does the customer, say I've put lots of power into the grid, and I've got lots of Sparks, I guess, and then how do I take that out as money?
That? So when we started the first trading environment we ran with a group of retirees down in a lifestyle village, and we said to them, we're going to set this up, you can set the buy and sell price, it's going to be really cool, you can decide who you want to, and they went, no, it's electricity, we don't care, just make it simple. Let us know that we're going to get a good price for the energy that we sell, and we're going to get a cheap price for the energy we buy, and that we don't have to do anything. So that really set the model for us around making this as simple as possible for consumers. So if you and I are buying and selling energy, we don't even have to think crypto. We will pre-purchase our electricity. I might buy $100 worth of electricity and know that if your energy is available, my $100 will over time diminish, end up in your wallet, and I'll have to buy another $100 worth of electricity so I can get access to your energy. But how does that work in the background? So at a trading environment level, the power token has a rate, has a value. It's used as the basis of buying or securing a pool of sparks. So if we're trading energy and we need 1,000 sparks to create a liquid environment, we need, and a spark is worth 1 cent, so it's important. It's always tethered to the lowest denomination of the local currency, so in Aussie, 1 cent. And if a power token's worth $1, then I stake 10 power tokens, I get 1,000 sparks, and then you and I can trade those 1,000 sparks. I buy them, they end up in my wallet, and I consume your energy, they end up in your wallet, and then you send them back to the application host who I'd given the $100 to for the sparks, and he gives you the $100. So for us, it's just a fiat exchange. It's nothing new. I don't even have to think about it really. It's like buying a pair of shoes on the internet. But in the background, the sparks token, which is a cryptographic token, not a currency, gives us all of the flexibility of frictionless transfer of value. No kind of account or transaction cost. It happens instantly, and the power token provides the staking for all of that and allows us to take that trading environment and operate it internationally. So in Thailand, a spark is worth 1 baht. So your $1 power token might buy 24 sparks in Thailand. Yeah. And so it allows us to create an international platform. It makes it multi-jurisdictional. It still provides the security for people trading energy, but importantly for most consumers who just aren't crypto savvy and really don't want to know about it, it makes it really, really simple just to buy and sell energy the way they always have.
Mm-hmm. And so what's the economic incentive, I guess, for holding power tokens?
For holding power tokens, so I guess the more people who use our platform, the more power tokens are held in escrow. So the more power tokens in escrow, the lower the circulating volume, the greater the demand, the lower the volume, the higher the price. So that's the way that token economy works. The more energy that's traded across our platform, or the more trading environments that we create, the more tokens we take out of circulation and the more demand we create. So it puts an upward pressure on supply and demand.
Oh, cool. Makes sense. Yep. And then you have a new token as well. I just wanted to, it's called the Asset Germination Event. Can you just tell us briefly about what that is and how it works?
Yeah, so intended to be a security token, so there's not a lot I can say about its detail before we put it in front of a regulator and get its blessing. But the intention of the AGE is to fill a niche in the renewables investment space. So at the moment, it's really easy to get money to build a renewable generating plant if you're looking to spend more than $50 million, because there's lots of international funds spending money in that space. And it's easy to invest in it if you're a superannuation fund or you're a high net worth individual. But there's not a lot available for small scale community renewables, and there's not a lot of opportunity for retail investors to get involved and to benefit from either the energy in their own community and to support that development, or to earn a return from that installation. So the AGE is a way of us creating an environment where we can fund the development of smaller scale renewables. Consumers themselves can fund the development of renewables in their community, get access to the renewable energy, but also get access to the return that asset generates. As a security token, it'll have a lot more features akin to a managed investment fund, that sort of thing, and we're working to hopefully have that in place by the middle of next year.
Cool, very cool. Yep. And then, so it's really, I guess you said it's a security token,
yep,
which is interesting. And then I'm assuming, is there sort of can you sort of elaborate a little bit on the economic incentives around that, or how people will make money, I guess, from that?
I guess what we'll be able to do.
Not financial advice, by the way, guys. This is not financial advice at all. Just trying to, I guess, understand when somebody transition from utility token right now to security token.
To the security token. So it really is like a more traditional investment, but a tokenized form of that investment. So rather than buying shares in a company, you're buying tokens that represent a proportion of value of an asset, and it then allows you to get access to that proportion of the return attributed to that asset. So it does two things for consumers or communities. It allows the community themselves to invest in generating capacity for their community, for renewables in their community, so they can do what government and big industry aren't doing at the moment, support the development of the renewables industry. But then the slide from that is that as that asset generates value, it generates a return, then they get access to that return as well. So one, it gives them access to renewables in their community. Two, it allows them to benefit or profit from the return that asset makes.
Right, makes sense. And then I guess, you've got these models where people have getting sparks, I guess, that and then they deal within their strata company, and then they get if they make enough sparks, they can trade that back and get cash.
Yep.
So so the strata company is, I guess, working with the cryptocurrency itself?
Yeah.
And how are you getting them to learn about trading cryptocurrency, I guess?
For them, it's not such a trading environment. It's just saying what we need you to do is to send these tokens to this wallet. Right. So it's an education piece, but it's surprising how many industries now, or big companies, are looking into that crypto space and trying to understand. And many of them haven't taken that next step into building a crypto treasury. But guys in America, American PowerNet, they are, Scott, their CEO, has a personal interest in crypto. So he's looking at what his business needs to become and how he can stay on the leading edge of providing valuable services or value-adding services to his customers. And he sees the use of blockchain as a way of really modernising his interaction with his customers, and to use crypto as another financial instrument in how he manages his business. So for Scott, it was really easy. He was familiar with crypto. He just sent the power tokens to a wallet. It all works seamlessly. For others, it's much more of an education piece.
Very cool. And so with, I guess, you said that a lot of the strata companies and these buildings have staked power tokens, I guess. How much of the circulating supply has been sort of staked or taken off so far?
Good question. I actually don't know the exact number. Not a huge proportion. So we are still very much in the early days. The lower the price, so with the market coming down, the more power tokens having to be staked at that lower price. So that's helping. But the more consumers we bring on, the more our energy, total value of that energy that's being traded, that number will increase. So we recognise we're in the early stages of that development, and we definitely haven't decoupled the value of the power token from the broader crypto market. But the intention would be that over time we can decouple the value of our token from the ebbs and flows or the volatility of the crypto market, because it's much more based on typical sound economic principles of supply and demand. Yeah.
And I guess people wanting to use the software, communities want to use it, strata companies. And I guess this comes back to this great news with the American PowerNet, which is really cool. And they have signed on and wanted to partner. Can you tell us a bit about that partnership and what that means?
So American PowerNet is an energy provider in the US. So they buy energy from the wholesale market and they sell it to their customers. So they have network access. They're a very traditional energy business. But they also have an office where on that office space they can blanket their own buildings, their carports and everything with solar and produce much more energy in that campus than they can consume. So using our platform and their existing systems and access to the network, they're taking the energy that they're generating on their own building and selling it to their customers down the street. Wow. And so that's for us the future of energy. Rather than buying energy that's generated 500 kilometres away and pushed through expensive transmission and distribution networks that are interrupted by storms and floods and all the rest of it. If you can put generation on your roof or your neighbour's roof or in your community, you get a far lower cost energy system because you're not paying for all of those networks, and it's far more resilient. So the energy is close by, it's much less likely to be interrupted by storms and things like that.
So moving on, I guess, from that into talking a little bit about regulation, and I think you guys are very connected with adoption and politics, I guess, around electricity. Does this mean, I guess, you have regulatory approval to roll out in the US?
So the type of adoption that we're doing with American PowerNet doesn't require any regulatory adoption. If it were residential customers and a typical kind of retail environment like we have here, the way we manage the flow of data in and out of the wholesale market, that requires some change. But it does show a point that the regulatory change we need is actually not that great. It's far more of a conceptual change or a cognitive change. We just need to think differently about the way this industry has always run, and realise that there is flexibility in the system now to do the things that we're saying we do. We do have really cool, funky regulatory phrases like prudent discounting, where we can drop the cost of networks for some customers over the cost of others because in the long term it's going to reduce the cost for everyone. And those sorts of concepts will make the adoption of peer-to-peer trading easier. in environments like Thailand, where the regulatory framework is far less mature or far less entrenched, it's easier to switch and change and adopt new ways of doing things. So Thailand's been brilliant. Their energy ministry have said we will have peer-to-peer trading in Thailand by the end of the year, and so they do. Here we've got a combination of entrenched business models, entrenched regulation, and slow-moving policy, but as we're demonstrating in Freo, you can get around it if you want to.
That's really cool. And so, I guess there is this slow death of coal-fired power to some extent, and you talked about that a little bit before. What do you think is the biggest challenge to getting renewable energy fully adopted?
The biggest challenge? I think that cognitive challenge around how this system operates. So a lot of the people who are talking about coal are absolutely right. We need, we've always needed big spinning machines to maintain the frequency and the security of the system, because we've always seen it as a big, big system. But what renewables gives us the ability to do is look at a series of interconnected, much smaller systems, and we can manage those technical challenges through the use of storage. So you can manage frequency with a battery rather than using a big spinning coal-fired turbine. Look, it's a transition. Nothing's going to happen overnight, and I think we probably need to relax a little bit around the conversation around we're going to have coal for a period of time yet, but we do need to phase it out as quickly as we can. But we need to look at some of these other options for running the system down at a smaller scale than just thinking of it as one big, complex system.
So we talked about challenges. What are some of the wins that are happening right now that you see are major wins in this market that are powering this forward?
Yeah, I think
powering this forward.
That
was a good one.
Perfect. Write that down.
First one.
I think things like us winning that competition with Richard Branson and Necker Island, because that doesn't just say you've got a great technology. It says the problem you're trying to solve is a real problem. So there's a growing level of recognition that we need to do something differently. But then you get communities like the T77 in Bangkok that have and the property developer there and a energy system developer, BCPG there, just realising, hang on, the future is distributed and renewable, so let's just do it and demonstrate how it works. And the benefits that flow directly to consumers are real and tangible, and you can then apply them into other situations. And then stuff down in Freo. I'm from Freo, so Powerledge is West Australian. We grew up in that neck of the woods. So to be able to create a project that's funded by the Prime Minister's office through the Smart Cities grant to create a peer-to-peer trading environment there across a regulated network before it's done anywhere else in the world, those little wins are just, they're fantastic.
Awesome. And I guess, in terms of Powerledge, what's up next?
Well, we started as an energy trading application and became an energy trading platform. And we realised that at the root of what we're doing, by being able to identify the provenance of every kilowatt hour that enters the system, who generated it, where, when, and through what mechanism, we then have open to us a whole range of other opportunities around carbon management, carbon credit creation and trading, the asset germination stuff. So really it's taking that base technology, really broadening our application around the trading space and acquiring more markets and more consumers, but also looking at the additional value that we can drive through the adoption of our token economy into places like carbon trading and financing for renewable generation assets. So those three things are our focus.
That's awesome. Any other favourite projects, David, on the side that, apart from Powerledge obviously as well, but anything else you look at and say, hey, that's really interesting?
Yeah, I've met some really great people in this industry in the last few years. So, the guys at Horizon State here in Sydney are just fantastic. What they're trying to do is it's just really important stuff and focused on improving human rights. So I just really like that project. But BitLumens is another energy-focused blockchain cryptocurrency project looking at bringing renewables to farmers in South America, impoverished farmers in South America that have no access to energy at the moment. So those are probably my two favourite, but there are some great projects going along, and a lot of them aren't focused on making people mega rich. They're actually focused on resolving real world problems, and I think that's the really great thing about blockchain and the way the distributed economy is going. It can actually deal with a whole lot of social issues as well as it's dealing with economic ones.
Very cool. Yep. Lastly, we do this every guest on the show. Yep. They make a prediction midnight this year. Bitcoin right now, what is your prediction on price? Bitcoin currently trading at $4,150. We're actually on a bit of a tear down right now, as we speak, literally right now. Probably getting close to testing that new low of 4,050, and I think we do cross that, we could potentially go down to $4,000. But just to give you, this is not financial advice, please. This is not Dave's opinion on whether or not you should buy Bitcoin or sell or whatever it may be. It's purely just for fun. Do you have a sort of a prediction of a midnight this year?
I think you're right. We'll drop a little bit more, but I think we'll be back to where we are now by midnight. Okay. New Year's Eve, and then it's onwards and upwards from there.
Okay. Well, that price literally has just moved $20 again. So I'm going to put you down for 4,132.
Sounds good.
Done. Awesome. Finally, we've got some crypto craziness. Now, I need your help, Dave, on this one to wrap up. Charles Hoskin has put out, he is the creator of Cardano, and he has put out some crypto-themed Renaissance paintings. Now, Joel's going to bring up something here, and we're going to have to try and describe. Dave, tell me what you see in the picture. Here we go.
Dear. What do I see? I don't see any fiddles. I don't see Rome burning, but...
I can see Roger Ver in the bottom right there. I got Charles Hoskin. He's in the middle. What's he got? He's got Just Own It. With Cardano. Yeah. Vitalik in the middle there.
Great beard.
Is that just hodl it? It says just hodl it apparently. Joel says, and is that Charlie Lee in the back left there? I could be wrong.
Back left, yeah.
And is that Craig Wright on the right? I could be wrong.
Where are you?
I'm on that far right there.
All right, okay.
Is that Craig Wright?
With the halo, or the guy right in the far right?
On the left, just the guy who's
just in the shadows.
Yeah.
Okay. Wow.
What do you think about crypto Renaissance paintings?
Are we in a Renaissance?
I don't know. Probably, I think we could be.
I don't know much about art, but I know what I like.
Okay. Lastly, last bit of craziness. There is a 8-day conference currently going on in North Korea, of all places. A landmark cryptocurrency conference. It's including the Great People's Study House, the Museum of Korean War, Pyongyang University of Foreign Languages. That's interesting. And finally, Kaesong, the border between North and South Korea, and even a beer factory.
Wow,
apparently.
Now you've got my interest.
So the FAQ says, is it safe? The DPRK can be considered the safest country in the world as long as you have a basic common sense and respect for the culture and belief of other nations. You'll be always welcome and enjoy like thousands of friends we've been hosting for the past 28 years and engage in cultural, sports, science, and business relations. Apparently, the tickets cost $3,800 per person, and you can book through the official Democratic People's Republic of North Korean website.
Would you go?
I would love to go. I think I would be banned off many things.
Stop looking. Give me your camera back.
Yeah, I'm not sure whether they would appreciate me. And there is, lastly, I guess, the Crypto Coin News Network has brought out a guide on how to talk to your relatives you convinced to buy crypto last year. It includes tips from the 18th century Prussian Field Marshal Helmuth von Moltke, apparently. Advice on how to deflect all your woes onto Donald Trump, and a guide on how to launch a preemptive strike, aka admit you were wrong. So there you have it.
There you have it.
So thank you so much, Dave, for coming on to the Daily Exchange.
Thanks for having me. It was good fun.
Good stuff. And you can follow Dave as well on Twitter with, I believe, David Martin with no eyes.
No eyes.
No eyes. And guys, do subscribe and do follow the Daily Exchange. You click the subscribe button and press the little bell, and we will see you guys next week with the Daily Exchange. That's it.